Mr Cable, the West Midlands voted strongly to leave the EU. Isn't it insulting to suggest a second vote? They got it right first time, didn't they?
Well, we're not rerunning the last referendum. It's happened. The government has set about trying to negotiate a Brexit. It's become a terrible mess. We now have a much clearer understanding about what Brexit actually means, and it seems perfectly fair and reasonable to me that we have a people's vote on the outcome, whether to stay in the European or to leave on the terms given. And I think the West Midlands, in many ways, illustrates a lot of the problems. I mean, you've heard the head of Jaguar Land Rover. It's a brilliantly successful company. I did a lot working with them to help build up investment in the car industry. I mean, it isn't just the company, but it's the supply chains, you know, the service companies, the small manufacturers who stand to be hit by it. And, you know, the whole region depends on a successful industrial base and the associated, you know, supply chains and services, and they are potentially in great peril.
Some saying the chief executive of JLR is scaremongering, that this is not a true prediction of what might happen. It's too early to predict.
Well, in a way, it's not in his interest to speak out. I mean, it would be in his interest just to keep quiet. But, I mean, he's warning because his company is potentially very seriously affected. And, you know, if companies think that it's actually going to be good for them, they should speak out as well. We're not hearing from them, which leads me to conclude that he's almost certainly on the money.
Many in the West Midlands are struggling financially, literally just about managing. They look back to the way you voted when in coalition. It was a government that brought in the bedroom tax. It was a government of which you were part that cut welfare. Do you feel guilty that you were part of that?
Well, I think the government, there was a lot of conflict within it. I was part of that, and we opposed many of the Tory measures, but we were collectively responsible for some of those very difficult decisions, and I do regret that. We also did some very good things. I mean, certainly I was responsible for business and the real side of the economy. We did a great deal to get the British economy back on its feet, to revive manufacturing industry, supporting science and technology, having a proper industrial strategy. Those were the good things, and I'm proud of them.
Mr Cable, the East Midlands voted decisively to leave the EU. Aren't you wrong and unfair and undemocratic to suggest that they vote again just because you don't agree with what they said?
No, I respect the fact that people voted strongly that way when the referendum was held. We now have a much clearer view about what Brexit means. Frankly, it's a bit of a mess. The government hasn't been able to get to a sensible outcome. We even have the possibility of no deal.
But the East Midlands voted decisively yes to leave.
Well, indeed, and if they have a people's vote on the final deal, they may choose to do the same thing again. But I suspect that the people who work for example, Toyota and all the many companies that supply it, and the food and drink manufacturers in Leicester and the surrounding areas, I mean, these people now begin to understand the massive disruption and the impact on jobs that will come from Brexit, particularly the extreme form of Brexit, which is now confronting us.
Why isn't that view in your belief translating into votes and seats? Not a single MP in the East Midlands for the Liberal Democrats? No,
we had a bad election, and 2015 too, we lost a lot of ground. I think we will recover that ground, partly on the back of the fact that we're right about this big issue. But actually, since I took over just over a year ago, we've had one round of elections in local government. It was the best result we've had for 15 years. Whenever by-elections occur, we're doing extremely well. Our overall opinion rating is not as high as I would like, but it's 50% up on when I started.